With how much Luffy has grown in the recent chapters, which by the way, anime onlys, there's your warning, there will be spoilers, but with how much Luffy has grown in the recent chapters, one very low-key topic of discussion is whether or not Luffy's now at Admiral level or even surpassed that. And thanks to this question submitted by Vinny through the King Pirates Elite, that is what we'll be discussing today. And hey, by the way, if you didn't know, the King Pirates Elite is the YouTube membership and Patreon for this channel. If you're interested in video Q&A submissions like this one, that is now exclusive tier on the Patreon, so check that out in the description below. But the YouTube membership has cool things as well, like badges and emotes and even more. But with that being said, thank you to all my King Pirates Elite members for supporting the channel, and let's get on with the video. And I want to start off by quickly discussing Luffy and just how much he's grown recently. It's still kind of mind-blowing the level that he's reached because of his recent power-up. We knew it was coming because even though he had learned Ryo with Hyogoro, it still didn't feel enough to defeat Kaido, but now he's learned how to code his attacks with Conqueror's Haki, which we've literally only seen the best of the best do. We're talking Prime Roger and Whitebeard and also Kaido and Big Mom. We can assume who else has it, but even at that point, Kaido himself says that only a handful of very strong individuals have this. So honestly, I think Luffy learning Advanced Conqueror's Haki has put him with the top tiers of the One Piece world. And he shows it too with how confident he is of defeating Kaido 1v1. But tying it back to Vinny's question, he specifically asked whether or not Luffy can defeat Aokiji, and also if the Admirals have Conqueror's Haki and how they might counter it. Now first off, I think him using Aokiji in particular is very interesting, because seeing Luffy fight Aokiji right now would be just a really great moment, because Aokiji was the first Admiral we met. That was really like the first reality check for the Straw Hats where they just got bodied by Aokiji. He honestly could have killed all of them if he really wanted to. So seeing Luffy fight Aokiji right now would just be very eye-opening, because at the very least, it's gonna be a very difficult fight. It's like part of the reason why I want to see Shanks reunite with Luffy so badly, because I think when they finally meet, they're definitely gonna fight and duke it out. Luffy's probably gonna end up hitting him with a Gomu Gomu no pistol coated in King's Haki. Shanks of course will hit back, you'll see the attacks aren't touching, the skies might split, and maybe by then Shanks will be like, ah okay, maybe your attacks are as strong as a pistol. But yeah, Luffy versus Aokiji will definitely be a very high level fight as Luffy is right now, but I'm still kinda hesitant to put him over Aokiji, because for me, Aokiji is top 2 in terms of Admirals. And that of course is based off of pure headcanon, and honestly, that's really what makes this discussion so difficult, because although we've seen the Admirals in action, we really haven't seen them go all out. Like yes, every time we see them, they're going up against the strongest in the world, Yonko, revolutionaries, and they're definitely portrayed to be very strong, but I will argue we haven't really seen them take a fight seriously for a long duration of time. Like Marineford is the prime example. That's where we saw the Admirals really take action, but that was a war trying to really highlight both sides with the Whitebeard pirates and the Marines. And I think initially it really put the spotlight more so on the Whitebeard pirates. Off the bat, we actually see the Whitebeard commanders fighting against the Admirals. Marco's bouncing around fighting every Admiral he sees. You get a little bit of Jozu versus Aokiji. So based off that initial fight, you might feel like, okay, Yonko commanders equals Admirals. But the thing is, later on, all of the commanders end up losing. Marco gets trapped by Sea Stone Cuffs and gets shot through the chest. Jozu ends up getting frozen and losing an arm to Aokiji. And although Marco and Jozu were distracted, but that was kind of the atmosphere of the situation. In the end, they still lost that battle, and as for the war as a whole, the Whitebeard pirates took a pretty big loss. They dealt with a lot of injuries, Whitebeard ends up dying, and Ace dies as well. But if you look at the Marine side of the battle, they definitely suffered a lot of casualties and injuries, but as far as their top tier fighters go, they really didn't take much damage. Akaino's really the only one to get seriously injured by Whitebeard, but even then Akaino went out and did his thing, took off half of Whitebeard's face and killed Ace. But the other Admirals on the other hand, even though they were involved in the fights, they really didn't get any injuries at all. And even beyond them, Sengoku and Garp, probably the 2 strongest Marines at the time, were just chilling the whole time. So although Marineford showed the Admirals in action and how strong they were, it didn't really show them going all out. And it's kind of even been the same with the new generation of Admirals. Fujitora is the only one we've seen so far, and although he's shown to be very strong, fighting against people like Luffy, Zoro, and Sabo without really struggling, but again, those were still very light glimpses of just how strong Fujitora is. When it came down to it, Fujitora took a backseat in Dressrosa. So at the end of the day, I do feel like the Admirals are one of the toughest people to power scale. We really could only base it off of these little clashes and moments of portrayal. And honestly, there's really not going to be a right answer until we finally see them go all out. It's kind of like the Shanks versus Mihawk discussion. We could keep going back and forth, but we'll never know until we actually see it. But of course, that's not going to stop us from speculating, because it's fun to do so. So here are my thoughts on how strong the Admirals are and how they stack up to Luffy right now. My opinion on the Admirals has kind of gone up and down over time. When I was just a casual reader of One Piece, I did feel like the Admirals were a clear level below the Yonko. And I do feel like any casual reader of One Piece will also feel that way. Because going back to Marineford, that's where the Whitebeard pirates got a lot of shine. So because of that, I think on the surface level, it felt like the Admirals were weaker than they are. Like you saw Whitebeard, despite being old and sick, just taking on everybody at once. So with that perspective, you started thinking about the other Yonko and them being in their primes and how strong they could be. But as time has gone on and we've actually met all of these Yonko, we find out they also have their individual flaws. Like of course, they're still terrifyingly strong, but they're not perfect either. So honestly, as of right now, I believe there's a group of top tier people within the One Piece world, and there's very little separation between them. And within that top tier, Admirals and Yonko are both included. Now you might still be able to look at individual matchups between these strong people, but I think once you get into that group, there's really not levels to it like a Admiral level or a Yonko level. I talked about this in a previous video, but I think pretty much once you hit that level, you're gonna be confident that you don't lose to anybody. Like Kizaru, when he found out about Big Mom and Kaido teaming up, he was like, okay, I'll just pull up and solve it myself. Realistically, can he lose to Big Mom and Kaido? Yes, but he's still gonna be confident that he can win. So as far as Admiral level and Yonko level, I think they're in the same group, and I believe Luffy with his recent power up has stepped into that group as well. Now with that being said, I still always felt like there was one more little thing separating the strongest in that group from the rest, and I think most likely Advanced Conqueror's Haki is that separation. Like no matter how strong your other Haki may be or how strong your Devil Fruit is, the ability to use this advanced technique of Conqueror's Haki is really what takes you to that final level. And I think that makes sense and explains why Conqueror's Haki has been so heavily emphasized. The reaction to Luffy using King's Haki and Marineford makes a lot more sense now. Aokiji and the others were absolutely shocked because he knew Luffy now had the potential to be one of the strongest of all time. So honestly, I do think this advanced technique of Conqueror's Haki separates the strongest within that top tier group. And personally, I don't think all of the Admirals know Conqueror's Haki. To be honest, the only person I'm really confident in having advanced Conqueror's Haki is Akainu. Besides that, with the rest of the Admirals, I would probably lean towards no. So as far as Luffy versus the Admirals, I think by the end of Wano, he's probably gonna surpass Fujitora and Green Bull. Now Green Bull is a wild card, we know nothing of the guy, he could have advanced Conqueror's Haki, but because he's tied to Fujitora, I kind of grouped them together. And for Fujitora, I really don't think he has advanced Conqueror's Haki, even though he's ridiculously strong. So by the end of Wano, I think Luffy probably surpasses him. Kizaru, I think Luffy probably surpasses as well. Again, it's hard to say because he's such a wild card, he never seems to take anything seriously. So the idea of Kizaru going all out is kind of scary. But right now, I'll probably say by the end of Wano, Luffy has a slight edge. Now besides that, we only have Akainu and Aokiji, who I think are top 2. And my reasoning for that is not only because they had that very long fight, but they were the top 2 candidates for Fleet Admiral, which I think is meaningful. Because Sengoku, as the Fleet Admiral, had Conqueror's Haki, and I think he probably knew how to use it at advanced level as well. So with Akainu and Aokiji both being candidates for Fleet Admiral, I think it's likely that they both have Conqueror's Haki. Now because Akainu came out the victor of their fight, I think he took a step up, but Aokiji is probably not far behind. So right now, I would probably say Aokiji and Luffy are probably equal, and Akainu is still a level above, which I think story-wise makes sense because Luffy's probably gonna have to fight Akainu later on, and by creating this separation of the Fleet Admiral and the rest of the Admirals, you kind of create this opportunity for some of the Straw Hats to maybe clash with the Admirals, like Zoro taking on an Admiral, maybe Sanji, maybe Jinbei, maybe Yamato if she joins. There's a lot of different options, and I think those would be dope to see. But yeah, overall, those are my thoughts on this topic. Thank you, Vinny, for submitting this question. The King Pirates crew is now over 27,000 members, so if you're not yet part of the crew, hit that subscribe button, hit the bell as well. If you're new to the crew, let me know in the comments below, and let me know your thoughts on this video as well. But as always, thank you guys for watching. If you had a good time, drop a like for the YouTube algorithm. Once again, thank you to all my King Pirates Elite members on YouTube and Patreon for supporting the channel. Check me out on Twitter, I'm DZack, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace.